It's another interesting episode of Labour Lens where we bring to you updates information in the world of work and pay. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week's episode of the program, we'll be giving you fresh news items and also discuss about labour and politics as Nigerians prepare for the governorship polls. We'll let the conversation continue in a moment.
When you are united, you are strong. But the moment you allow your ranks to be divided, as the proverb goes, it says, if a wall does not crack, no lizard or any reptile can get into it. So my advice, let not the wall of the Nigerian Labour Congress and its affiliates, don't let there be any crack.
This was the admonition by veteran Labour leader Azan Sumono to Nigerian Labour Congress NLC towards ensuring inclusiveness of workers from all strata in the country. In his acceptance speech after his re-election, the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, reassured Nigerian workers of quality representation.
That the minimum wage, if passed into law, must be implemented. And therefore, we must dust all our protest shoes. We must get ready to engage the system until the system recognizes the fact that workers are not slaves. Workers are partners in progress. And therefore, we work for us to be paid. We don't work for charity. We work for us to be paid. We need to take care of our families. Just as the politicians still to do what they are doing, we need to also tell them that a worker is worthy of his wages.
At the just concluded 12th Delegate Conference of the Nigerian Labour Congress, workers here are optimistic that there's a renewed strength to fight casualization of workers, outsourcing of staff, and many other social issues Nigerian workers might be faced with. The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengasan, has said the union will resist the sale of the nation's refineries. The president of the union, Francis Olabode Johnson, during an interview spoke on the implications of this action, adding that the federal government should rather speed up the rehabilitation of the ailing refineries and return them to optimal production level.
Look at Ghana refineries. It was built in 1963. But today, if you go there, it's been maintained. And when this government came on board, they're also looking at, okay, what must we do to see how we can also do this? There are times in the past that refineries was given to Chrome Services to do non-hour maintenance. And the Chrome Services could not get the expertise required. They went to Romania to go and get Romanians to come and do it. And why is the refinery today? Kaduna Refinery, during the Abacha government, was given to Total. They decoupled it. Do it, couple it back. They couldn't. It is same NNPC staff. Quote me that they put it to use and it's working. The challenges of those refineries, apart from the issue of pipeline vandalization, and I also want to tell government that every effort that they are doing to also make sure the Niger Delta guys are also being taken care of to reduce restfulness and security of the pipeline. It's only in Nigeria that you see Nigerians breaking the pipelines and everything. And because of the poverty mentality and everything. And so these are things that have been done in the past, and this government is also doing, and every government must continue to look at it that these are things we need to address.
The Joint Health Sector Unions, which comprises of the Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria, National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, Non-Academic Staff Union of Allied Health Professionals, Senior Staff Association of University Teaching Hospitals, Research Institutes, and associated institutions proceeded with the union's national directive to hold protest rallies nationwide. Health workers who were seen carrying placards with different inscriptions called for the immediate sack of the health minister.
What we are asking for is equity. We are government workers. You have increased your salary once, increase our own. You said no. You increase it the second time, increase ours, you said no. So we are on that. Until that is done, this rally will definitely metamorphose into a full-blown strike very soon. This is just a warning to the government.
Nothing, don't privatize us. Don't allow the Minister of Health to cajole you into PPP that is not holistic, PPP that is so deceptive, PPP that will make the country more poorer, PPP that will not meet the needs of the common man.
We are faced with a situation where a minister that is supposed to represent the medical practitioner and health workers is representing only the medical workers. And we are faced with him. He's the one opposing us. He's the one that is supposed to present our case, but he's the one standing against it. That's not allowing us. He don't want us to move. And their plan is to privatize the hospitals.
We reject in totality the strategy of the Federal Ministry of Health to cause disaffection among our members. Do not forget, they now want our members to be coming cap in hand to beg for their legitimate rights.
Some of the workers' demands are the upward adjustment of Conhen's salary structure, the appointment as CMD or MD, which according to labor leaders is in accordance with the law that established the health institutions, implementation of consultancy cadre, immediate payment of April-May 2018 salaries, payment of promotion arrears, and a review of retirement age from age 60 to 65.
We are talking about no work, no pay, and they are owing our members several months, like in FNC Owerri. Beside the 4-month salary they were owing, they are still owing May and April.
We ask a question. Is the law, which actually was promulgated by the military and turned to the act during the democratic regime, only meant for the health sector? Or why will the particular sector of the country go on strike if they are not paid, and then another sector goes on strike to take them even 3 months?
We have waited long enough and we are tired of waiting. So we are sending message to them that this money should be paid immediately without further delay. And that is the only message we believe we can send to them to bring about the much desired peace in the health sector.
This protest is all about the non-payment of the salary of our workers, especially those in the tertiary institution. If you could recollect, sometime in April, May, we had a strike, and as a result of this, salaries of our workers were being denied, and up to now the salaries have been paid, not been paid, despite the fact that the ADRO, to which the issue was being pinned at, have been instructed.
In as much as we are law-abiding citizens of this country and we are respectful of the law, we also wish to express our mind on that illegal discretionary position by withholding our salaries. Of course, there are so many accusations on ground, there are so many issues on ground, but the major one we are discussing now, because we don't want to invade majorly the issue of ARD, is the withheld salaries of April and May.
JOESU members, who boast of about 1 million members, say the shortage of manpower in critical professional areas remains one of the huge challenges the healthcare sector is faced with in Nigeria.
On the profile interview segment this week, I will be speaking with Lagos APC governorship candidate Babajide Sanwo-Olu. He will be shedding light on his plans for workers and business owners in Lagos State. Take a listen. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Sharon. It's an honor to be on your program as well.
You are the Lagos APC governorship candidate for 2019, and there's a lot of things you've said on air, especially when it comes to what you want to do for Lagosians if elected to office. Can you tell us what are your plans for the Nigerian workers or Lagosians if you're elected into office?
Well, I mean, thank you. When you talk Lagosian workers, as in the civil servants and the public officers in Lagos, or Lagosians in general? Both, okay. Well, you know, the second one is a mouthful. Is really to create an environment where everybody thrive and do very well, generally. try and give opportunity, especially to the private sector, who really are the engines of growth. You know, bring about policies that they can flourish in the lines of business they choose. They can have opportunity and access to all of the interactions they need to have with government, and they can, by extension, become creators, you know, and enablers for employment generation, right? I mean, so typically we believe that 85% of the GDP is really controlled by the private sector. So we need to ensure that our programs, you know, on transportation, on health, on traffic management, you know, making Lagos 21st century, power, security, everything evolves around everybody, more so the private sector. But coming home to a civil servant and the public sector, right, which is an environment in which I've also worked with all sense of humility too, is to sort of like engage ourselves and tell ourselves both the home truth, as in we need to raise the standards. We need to raise the standards of our service delivery, because that's why it's called a public service, of our standard delivery, so that if we do well, right, people by extension will have a repeat performance with us. Right? And so when we also do well, then we also can remunerate ourselves well. We can have a better welfare package. We can have a lot better conducive work environment, and we can have all the career growth and plan, you know, and capacity development that will ensure that in truth, you know, you have a professional career and it's something that you'll be proud of. Also to ensure that when you also finish work, that your pensions are guaranteed. All of that are part of the things that I will do for both Lagosians in general and the civil servant, public officers in particular.
Talking about pensions, after the general elections in 2007, you were appointed Commissioner for Establishment, Training and Pensions.
Yes, I was.
I know that you had giant stride in that when you held that portfolio. Would you want to remind Lagosians of your achievements?
Well, I mean, it was an humble, position, fully well when you know you have responsibility to oversee over 130,000 public officers, you know, and we were the first at that time even to have launched the contributory pension scheme, and we launched LASPEC, which was the first contributory pension scheme in the country, you know, even before the federal government. And so what we did, or what that is about, is to ensure that, you know, post, you know, retirement, they have something that they know is theirs, you know, and they can begin to see the growth plan, you know, under the contributory pension scheme. And so we're very delighted that we started that, and it's going very well. But typically, you know, what you see in that with that ministry before was, you know, it used to be Christian as a dead zone, as in a place where nothing happens. But we thank God that within the first 2 years, not only were we able to triple and quadruple the budget that we needed to run on it, we changed the entire face of capacity development, of interactions with the entire public service, using all of the components of the Joint Negotiation Council, the unions, you know, and also even ensuring that people that were on our pay-as-you-go pension, they were collecting their pensions timely, you know, as in when we pay our normal salaries. And so everybody had, you know, some sort of like a new time, you know, in civil service at that time, you know. But much more important was that there was a career path, there was a growth plan, there was a developmental plan that we put in place, you know. And finally, I think we also recreated what we call Office of Transformation at that time, which is also meant to bring about new innovations in governance, you know, one-stop shop, what our offices should look like, you know, when you come in, you know, how courtesies can be extended and all of it. So these are some of the very humble things that we did way back then in 2007 to 2011.
I'll be asking you a two-in-one question. How would you describe a government that refused to pay pensioners their pension as at when due? And I would also like to know your position on the struggle towards achieving a new national minimum wage. Are you going to pay if the president assents to it? And are you going to pay more perhaps?
Well, I mean, so let me start with the second question, because a lot of people want to hear that. Well, I mean, with all sense of responsibility and humbly so, in 2011, when the current pension, so when the current minimum wage was signed up, I was on the committee with the federal government, and I dare say that Lagos State was the first to implement, under my watch, the first to implement the minimum wage at that time, which is 18,000 minimum wage. We're the very first, even ahead of the federal government, when they had even accented to it. So that goes to show that if I, as a commissioner, can push the government at the day then for them to pay it, it stands to reason that as a chief executive, as a governor of the state, right, and they bring about, improvement in the salary welfare of my staff. I can assure you that it's something that we will deal with dispatch. It's something that we would love to pay because, to whom much is given, much is also expected. We will make sure that we'll raise the bar in terms of service and quality of service, but we'll ensure that, we'll also pay them because, inflation over those periods too, has been on the upward side. So in truth, they certainly deserve the minimum wage. And like I've said, even on the campaign trail, if we bake the cake bigger, there's nothing stopping us from ensuring that we even pay slightly above the minimum wage. Because we want wages that will be proper take home, not drop you at the bus stop, that will take you home. So it has to be something that we'll consider so very positively. And to go back to your first question, which is how would I, rank, it's always a very difficult thing, because I don't know what are the issues or what are the complaints, that will be sitting, as a governor or a head of agency at that time. But I say, if for whatever reason somebody has served you for those number of years, right? I think it's just human that you pay them, pensions, that is due. But I would say that Nigeria as a country, we've sort of delayed that. And so what I know is that there's been huge pension liabilities over those periods. So, if you hadn't planned well, then it becomes, like a big challenge for all of them, cash-wise, to be able to deal with. But it still doesn't take away the fact that people that have served you for 30, 35 years, you probably shouldn't just throw them into the rain, and get them cold. You should look for what, or how you need to pay them.
The social welfare of Lagosians, I know, is one of top priority in your manifesto. My concern is, I'm aware that you are the pioneer or the initiator when it comes to the Lagbos system. Looking at the standard of living in Lagos right now or in the country, I'm concerned you would increase the number of access or probably affordability of the Lagbos system.
Well, it's not just going to be Lagbos. We're looking at, what we call an integrated mass transit system. This is a huge city, and a whole lot of people need to move from one area to another. They need to come in on a daily basis for work, for business, for whatever it is. So what we're trying to do is to have both the rail, the waterways, and of course the Lagbos which is a road transportation system. It's only when we have the three of them, the three-prong working well, that you can see an integrated transportation system. And what that will do, especially if you're able to have a payment solution in which with your card, you can hop in and hop out. You can use any of them with your card. It will make movement a lot easier. It will even make issues around reduction in the cost, because what you will see is there will be a lot of transfer pricing. Yeah, and it will be easier for you to manage and effectively do well, right? So it's not unlikely that if we get it right and it's working, we can actually see a reduction in the total cost if a lot more people believe in it, and you're not having one person per car, on the road that is already congested, right? So let everybody, it's like park and ride. Let everybody hop in and hop out, and that's the plan that we have for Lagos.
Do you see this particular system or dream that you have actually creating more employment for an average Lagosian?
No, it goes without saying. It goes without. Once, for example, the rail system starts, is huge number of people, from conductors to engineers to traffic design to traffic signal officers to a whole lot of people that, those days when we were growing up, I'm not sure, Sharon, you were up then. Nigerian Railway used to be the highest, employer of labor, Nigerian Railway Service. So you can imagine the number of people they used to employ. So it's the same thing. Once you bring back the rail, they would pick a whole lot of people off the rail, off the road. Same with the waterways. If you have ferries moving up and down, it will create from the various jetties to the various terminals to people working, to people that would need to repair and all of the things. It stands to reason that jobs will be created, opportunities will be abound, and then there will be better quality of life for all of us.
As a politician, what's your view on local government autonomy?
Well, that's a very tricky question, because, I always say, to eat an egg, you certainly must, to eat an omelette, you must break the egg. At some point, in government, what I think has happened is we need to scale up the capacity in the local government first. Scaling up the capacity means that what are the quality of the staffing up onto the senior level. They don't have They don't get to the senior level like you have in a regular civil service. So probably one of the things we need to raise the bar to ensure that they get to a level in which they can begin to take full ownership, of what is required. But I also, on the other part, believe that, politics is local. So with the local government, it brings governance closer to people. So it's a double-pronged thing. I'm not against it. I'm actually for it. But it's something that we need to reform completely, right? It's like you give somebody a ram, you must give it with a rope, right? But we need to do the very tough ones for, scale up the capacity, scale up the skills, let them understand the processes, the procedure that is required, and they certainly should be able to walk and run, on their own.
Finally, my concern again as an individual or as a journalist is industrialization. We know that no society thrives without industrialization. Lagos is an urban city and we have lots of companies, but we also have hard-working youth who are ready to actually move to the next level in terms of probably promoting their business. Yeah. So is there an enabling environment for them? Would there be an enabling environment for them if you're elected into office? Is there any vision you have in encouraging those young minds?
Sharon, it goes without, any iota of doubt. Like I did say in my opening statement, I understand and I appreciate that the private sector runs about 80–85% of the GDP. So we need to ensure that we keep them in business. We keep all of the major, industrial places, we keep them working. And by extension, they also need to bring about new processes, new lines, new designs that they need to be able to compete and compete very well, globally, right? And so for a big city like us, we know we need, almost 30% of all of the manufacturing concern in the country, right, have one inroad or the other in Lagos. So we need to continue to do that and do it very well. But like you've also said on the flip side, everywhere we're in globally too, is entrepreneurship. It's ensuring that, the small, medium enterprises are the way to go, right? Not everybody can employ 5,000, 10,000. But I tell you, the 2 people, the 5 people, the 10 people, right, the corner shops, if you give them also the right enabling environment, they're meant to take people off the street. And so part of the things we'll be doing is to see how we support all of the youth, all of the very young graduates who have innovative ideas, who want to really do things for themselves, who are not waiting for government to come and get them out of it. Once they leave school, be very creative, be very innovative, and see what are the things you can do. So our role will be to create support for them. If it is seed capital, if it is training they will require, if it is mentoring they will require, so that they can go and flourish and do all of the things they do.
Talking about tax, is there any way that probably a government can actually assist the youth? Because I know taxation is one issue that many people face when it comes to industrialization.
No, I'm not sure there will be issues or problems around tax, right? Tax is always a thing of the law, right? And I'm always very careful, because I'm not a lawyer, to begin to talk, it's always very easy for people to say, I'm going to reduce, I'm going to no. Let's look at it. And it's also one of the major sources of revenue for government. But let's put that aside and see the opportunity. This is a 20 million plus population. So if you get it right, you can be rest assured that whatever it is you lay your hand in, there's a market out there for you. It's just for you to be focused. It's for you to know what exactly you want to do. And for us, is to create that enabling environment for you. If you're in a startup tech companies, how well are we building tech hubs for people so that they don't need to have all of the implements before they can do their business? It's going to be a plug and play. Provide for them Wi-Fi's, provide for them, services, shared, office spaces, and they can do things for themselves. If it is the corner shop you need, talk to our employment trust fund, trust fund that we currently have. Let's see how we can increase the access to the fund in terms of the budget size and in terms of the condition precedent, for you to be available to you. So once we can marry all of that, so we can get a lot more people benefiting from the employment trust fund, right? And the moment we do that, it's just to test them, monitor them, even do a bit of, conditional cash transfer to some people, and take people out of poverty. Once you begin to do that, one person employs 1 or 2 people, 5% employs 2 or 3 other people, and you begin to see jobs being recreated, right? And we face all of the other things we need to do in education, in health, in public, transportation, in environment, in slow bomb grid, in waste management, in power, so that we have, a total win-win situation and begin to take Lagos to greater heights.
It was an interesting conversation I had with you, and I wish you success.
Thank you so very much, Sharon. I certainly do need the success part of it as well.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember, labor creates wealth.